You see, things were not meant to be like this for me. I wasn't raised by a single parent or a distant cousin. I grew up in a very loving two-parent home. We lived in the suburbs. Now that I look back on it, I don't recall too much pain. I mean, of course, there was pain. Every kid goes through a little pain. Childhood's not just about happiness and love. But I'm sure a lot of kids had it worse than me. No, in fact, most kids had it worse than me. I never experienced a tragic loss like the death of a parent or a close friend. I had a sister. She's younger than me. Younger than me by 3 years. I remember when my mother first brought her home, she said, "Vanessa, this is your younger sister, Ella." And all I knew was that this baby named Ella better not mess up my routine. She messed up the whole routine. I had a dream last night about a little girl. She was maybe 12 or so. I couldn't see her face, but she was beautiful. And her smile, I cannot even begin to describe her smile. And she was out in the open field running. She was running because she didn't have a care in the world, and she was just running and running and running, and I tried to keep up with her, but it seemed like the faster I ran, the further she got. And when I stopped running, she came closer. At one point, she was almost at my reach, and I could feel a warmth coming from her. And when I reached out to hug her, she just slipped away. And then I woke up. No, that's not the first time I had that dream. That's the first time she was that close. When I was younger, I had nightmares. They started when I was about 12 or so. My sister would be hanging off of the edge of a cliff, and then I would grab onto her hand and I'd just tell her to just hold on. I wouldn't let go. And it seemed like the harder I pulled, the heavier she got. She'd always look at me right before. There was this helpless look. And then she'd just slip right through my hands. And she was just falling and falling and falling, and I'd scream. And then I'd be in the ocean. And everywhere I looked, there was water. Water all around me. And I wasn't swimming or even treading water. I was just there. And off in the distance, I could hear the cry of my sister.
My life, where do I go? How do I hide the tears I cry? And how do I stop? How do I drop all the mood swings too? I'm running away like I don't have hope for today.
My mother worked. In fact, she worked a lot. Probably more than she needed to. She did advertising for a Fortune 500 company, and she was good at it. And all I can remember was her always complaining about some glass ceiling. When I was younger, she stayed home with us. And we do typical mother-daughter and then daughters type things. We would play house, we would cook, we would bake, and we would make commercials. Now I know commercials is not the most normal thing in the world, but it made my mom happy. It usually started out like this. She would put some type of product on the kitchen table, because we didn't use the dining room table. Like say it was an iron. Our job is to each go to our own area of the house, and we had poster board, markers, crayons, music, and we had 30 minutes to make up a commercial about that iron. Of course, Ella would use newspaper cutouts and put them on the poster board and have some scribble scrabble she called art all around it. Then she'd play some weird music, the weirder the better, and then do some type of interpretive dance instead of a regular commercial. And it was good for a good laugh, but I could tell Mom thought that Ella was making fun of her. Me? I'd go off to the garage, and I'd stare at an empty space on the wall. I'd stare at it until the product that we were trying to promote would appear, like the iron. I would see the shape of it, and then I would see how it was interacting with people. I would see the steam rising from it, then I'd see the hand and the arm and the body and the head of the person using it. And it was weird, but the whole commercial would play out in that little space in the wall. Mom always said it was good to have a zing. Something to put a little zing into the product, like best competition, best iron flattens the competition. I miss that space on the wall.
I can't stop now.
I gotta keep fighting.
I must go on. Oh yes, I will.
I do remember one night. I was asleep, and I heard noises like banging and such, and I thought it was the TV, so I went downstairs, and the TV was on, but the sound was turned down. I kept hearing the noises, and they were getting louder, but still not as frequent as they were before. I started towards the garage, and I felt someone behind me, so I turned around quickly, and it was my sister standing there, holding my pajamas. We moved towards the garage. And the sounds were getting louder and louder, but still not as frequent as they were when they started. And we got to the garage, and I opened the door, and we could see a dim light off in the far corner. It was a blue light. I had never seen this light before. We bent down and we moved towards the light. We ducked between the Jag and the Mercedes, and when we finally made our way over, we saw Dad in Zone 5. Sis jumped up and yelled, "Dad!" and he turned around quickly, and he was sweating, and he had blood on his face, and he had scratches on his neck, and the left side of his face had a lot of scratches on it. And he was panting, and as his shirt was torn, and all at once he looked like he had been attacked by an animal. It was the animal. I turned to leave, and Sis, she ran towards Dad, and he moved right in front of her and blocked the path towards the corner. She saw something and screamed. Now, I had never heard anyone scream like this before. She just kept screaming and screaming, and she wouldn't stop, and then she got quiet. Too quiet. Dad was staring at her, and she was staring right back at Dad. And then he spoke. "You two should get back to your rooms." I was frozen. He moved in and said it again. And then he kept saying it and saying it. Then she started saying no, and they were going back and forth and back and forth. And he got right up to her, and he kneeled down. And he said, "Go to your room." Now, I couldn't see her face, but I saw her left hand cock back and slap Dad. And he didn't budge. I mean, how could a hit from a 13-year-old girl hurt him? His face was chiseled in stone, tough as leather, is what Grandma used to say. She just kept slapping him and slapping him and slapping him. And in one instance, he raised his hand and hit her, and she went down just as fast as he had slapped.
Listen, you see, I'm so tired, but something inside keeps telling me to keep going, 'cause that finish line, you see, it's just up ahead. And someone said, they said, "Girl, you'll be alright. You've got to keep the faith, and you can finish this race."